Hey guys, and welcome back to another Unfiltered Gamer Kickstarter board game review. Now today's game is pretty interesting. It's a theme of animals that you've probably not heard of that much before. No, it's not cats. This time it's dogs. What's that game called? Dogs by Rob Mason. It's 2 to 4 players, 60 to about 90 minutes long depending on how many players, and it previously existed in Brazil. In fact, it sold out 3 printings before being remade here in the US, currently on Kickstarter. It has alternate art as well as some alternate layouts and different variations to play, and it's a pretty interesting worker placement / Euro game. Well, let's go ahead and check it out. Alright guys, so this is Dogs, and this is how you set the game up. Well, first of all, you have the main board, which is where you put all the dogs, as well as where you put your main character icons or tokens that you move around the board. You have the dog fair tile, which is here for worker placement, and then over here you have each of your own character boards or player boards where you put in front of your player in order to obtain different dogs and feed the dogs and so on and so forth. So let's go ahead and look at the player board. If we look at it over here or over here, you'll notice that there's 2 assistants here in the office, as well as 3 dog kennels that can be placed here for additional kennels. You start off with 2. As well as over here you've got gas, you start with 6, and your veterinary hospital starts with 2 medicine, and then you have your food storage area, which starts with 2 food. And finally, in your little office space, you get 2 gold coins, which is your main source of currency, while these are actually just going to be used as resources. Every player will get that and set it up next to them, and then you'll go ahead and look at the board. Now the board has all these little blank spaces here, and these are green and these are blue. And players will go ahead and dig into these bags, the either blue or green bag, and pull up dogs. Luckily, I've already gone ahead and done that. So I would go ahead and randomly throughout the bag, pick these dogs up and place them on the board. These dogs here represent the city dogs, while the green dogs represent the country dogs. Now once the board has been fully set up with the city dogs and the country dogs, and all players' boards have been set up, as well as placing their little truck markers, that would conclude the setup for the main board and the player boards. The last thing you're going to need to do is take a look at over here at the dog auction or fair tile. Now you got 2 different types of cards. You've got the dog fair cards, which you play 1 a turn, and this will let you know which dogs you can sell to the fair or buy from the fair, as well as your main action cards. So you'll place 2 of them in each of the action spots: the town hall over here, the warehouse, the pet shop, the veterinary hospital, as well as the dog fair. After you conclude placing all these cards down face up, that will allow you to begin the game, and that's pretty much the setup for dogs. Okay, so phase 1 of the game is fairly simple. You pick one of the player colors to go first, and they will begin moving their cars around the player board. To start off with, the blue player will go first, and he'll move 1 space. Whenever a player moves a space, they have to spend a gas. They can also then choose to collect a dog. So for instance, he will collect this dog, and he'll place it into his truck. Then, if he'd like to move another space, he has to wait for his next turn after collecting said dog. The red player would then go, and maybe they would move 2 spaces, and they would spend 2 gas. Now everybody only has 6 gas total, so once you've spent a total amount of 5 gas collecting dogs, you have to spend 1 gas to return. Both sick and normal dogs will go into your truck. A sick dog is represented with a little plus sign, while a normal dog has nothing on it. There's also another type of dog, which is called the reward dog. Reward dogs look like this. They have a little paw print symbol with a little diamond or talisman symbol here. And if you buy these dogs or pick up these dogs, they go straight to the dog fair, which is located in the dog fair symbol, and you place on one of the little squares representing the dogs. After everybody has done all of their movement and gone around in turn order collecting dogs, they will spend their 1 gas and return back to the arc or the center of the board. Now the second part to phase 1 is pretty simple. You're going to have the blue player here along with every other player, but for example we'll use him to get all the dogs that are in their truck and place them onto their mat. If there's a sick dog, it'll go into the infirmary or the nurse's station or veterinary, whatever you want to call it, and the rest of the dogs will be placed inside a kennel. Now, there's certain rules based on how you want to place dogs, but we'll get into that more further later. Right now, we'll just place each separate dog in a separate kennel, aligned just like this. Afterwards, the first and last player will receive 1 free resource, the first player to go back and the last player to go back, receiving either a resource of gas or veterinary medicine or food. Afterwards, everybody has done that, we'll move on to the next phase. Now, like I said, after everybody has taken all their dogs and their actions and moved back to the arc, and then place their dogs from their truck into either the infirmary or the kennel is represented by 4 spaces. And those 4 spaces will dictate how many points you get at the end of the game based on the types of dogs you put in them and how you put those dogs in there. Each kennel is also going to cost a certain amount of food that you're going to have to spend during the last phase of the game based on what dogs are in which kennels. If you put 2 of the same dog in a kennel, that'll earn you points at the end of the game, or 2 of the same and a single dog, that'll earn you more, as well as if you have 2 of one kind and 2 of another kind, that'll earn you even more, as well as 3 of a kind or 4 of a kind being the most. After you go ahead and decide how you want to place your dogs, in which you have to, you can't set aside them, you have to place them as soon as you get them, then you'll move on to the second phase of the game. Okay, so now we're in the phase 2, the assign workers phase. And if you notice here, we've got the dog fair as well as action spaces and 2 different types of cards. We have the dog fair cards, which tell you which dogs you can sell to the dog fair, as well as the action cards, which will be switched around based on the turn and what is left available. Now, first of all, we'll go ahead and talk about turn order. Each player is going to be placing their little meeple onto one of these action spaces. In a 2-player game, players can only place 1 meeple per space, whereas in a 4-player game, players can place 2 meeples per space, and then those spaces are locked out. The town hall space will let you spend 2 currency to purchase a kennel. When you purchase a kennel, you simply take one of their little meeple tokens, little house tokens, and put on top of the kennel space, and that will let you purchase it. The warehouse will let you switch any goods that you have for any other goods. The pet shop space will let you spend any single currency for any 2 goods, and of any combination, being food or medicine. The veterinary space will let you spend your medicine to heal the sick dogs that are in your infirmary. Then they will be placed into your kennel. The dog fair has a couple of actions. You can either purchase dogs based on the amount located on the little fair cards, which says 9, 8, 7, 6 depending on the dogs, or you can sell dogs, included with the specific cards you can gain through the action spaces, for at least 2, but possibly even 4 or 5 points. In addition, you can also switch one of your dogs in your kennel for a dog at the fair. Now, a player is going to go ahead and place in turn order onto one of these spots, and when they do so, they'll do whatever the action says, as well as picking up one of these specific cards. The cards have a variety of different things they can do, such as this card specifically will say, oh, you can purchase this for 1, you can take this action for 1 gas. Or if you pick up this card, whenever you sell a dog, you can get an additional coin. The next player will then go ahead and take their action. The pet shop, maybe they'd like to purchase some medicine and or food, and then they'll pick up one of these cards. This card here specifically says they can swap dogs, whereas this one here is a medicine. Then the next player will continue, and play will continue as people choose their locations on the action spot. Once all the actions have been taken, players will then go ahead and return and begin the 3rd phase. Now, just before we get into the 3rd phase, realize that players don't actually have to take these actions, and in fact, if they do take their second action, then that would mean using your assistant instead of your main worker. If you use your assistant, it's going to cost you additional currency at the end of the 3rd phase, and if you can't pay for that assistant, then it'll be pretty detrimental to you. Okay, so now we've entered phase 3 of the game, and in phase 3 there's 4 parts. Let's talk about the first 2 really quick. First of all, you need to feed your dogs. And in each little kennel space here, it's going to require 1 food per single kennel that you need to pay for. So right here we have 1 single kennel with 2 dogs, so that would cost 1 food. Now if the player actually had another dog right here, then we'd have to pay an additional food for that second kennel. The next thing you do is pay wages. Now when your assistants come back to you, then each time you have used your first assistant, you will go ahead and spend 1 currency. And if you don't have 1 currency, that assistant gets retired and removed. However, if you do, you'll get to keep that second action for the rest of the game. So it's important that you remember to pay for your assistant. Now let's go ahead and talk about board cleanup and player cleanup. Okay, now we're on step 3 of phase 3. Step 3 is pretty simple. It's board cleanup. What do? You take all the action cards that weren't used for the action phase and you remove them from play into the discard field. And then you go ahead and put 2 new ones in each single action, above each single action space, just like this. After you've got every single card placed for the action spaces, you take a new dog fair card and place it right on over the old one, and that'll show the new dogs that will be needed to be sold in the dog fair area. After you go ahead and do that, you will refill any empty dog spaces by taking them out of these bags, shaking them and pulling them out. For brevity's sake, I went ahead and did so already, placing them here. That would be the country dogs, and then back to the city dogs. After both dogs have been filled up, then we realize, does the game end or does it not end? Well, because all the dogs were able to be filled, the game doesn't end. However, if we ran out of green dogs and there was an empty space, the game would end immediately and scoring would begin. Then we go to player cleanup, which is the fourth step. In player cleanup, every single player receives one currency. I just go ahead and give every single person a gold currency token, as well as you can choose to purchase gas so that you can continue moving on your next phase 1. Each player can spend 1 gold currency to get 3 tokens of gas, which will let them move 3 spaces up to a max of 9. Afterwards, players will pass to the next player in clockwise fashion, so if blue was the first player, it would then go to red, and phase 1 would begin. Play will continue as players continuously move across the board, collecting dogs, spending gas, healing sick dogs, buying new kennels, purchasing action spaces, as well as doing whatever those action spaces say, or action cards they can acquire throughout the way, and then going ahead and having their dogs be fed and their assistants paid for, and suffering any detrimental losses if they're not able to do so, until no dogs are really placed on the board anymore and the game ends. Or in a 2-player game or variant game, you have these little roadblock icons here, they're basically little red roadblocks, and you add them to the bags, and if 6 ever pop up, that will immediately end the game as well. And then we do the scoring phase. Let's go ahead and show you the scoring phase. Alright guys, so we've reached the end of the game and now it's time to score. We'll use these 2 players on our 4-player example as to how to score the points. We'll use the blue player first. For the blue player to score, he's going to first tally up all the points in each kennel for the dogs he has acquired. This set of dogs will give him 5, this will give him 8, and this will give him 2. Additionally, since he acquired a new kennel and there's at least 1 dog in said kennel, he'll receive 2 additional points. He'll also get 1 point for his equal up to 3 resources. So if he had 3 resources, it's 1. If he had 6 resources, it's 2, and so on and so forth. So he only has 3, so he gets 1. He would also get an additional 2 points for having his assistant left over at the end of the game. However, you get minus 2 points for every single dog located in the infirmary, and since he has 1 dog located here, he gets minus 2 points. Additionally, for each different type of breed of dog that he has in his kennel, he gets 2 points, and because he has 4 different types, he gets 8. His total score would be 26. The red player over here, however, has a dog combination of 12, and 2 points, and 3, along with his 2 points for his kennel. He doesn't receive any points, but he has at least 1 dog in here, and so he's made his kennel worth 3 points. Additionally, he has more types of dogs than our blue player. He has 5, so multiplied by 2 is 10, and totaling his point score to 32. So, with red being 32 and blue being 26, red would win the game. And that would conclude how to score the game. Alright, so the game was scored and red won. However, since there was only 2 players, technically in a 4-player game, which I was showing you, every single player would have to tally their scores, and that person who had the most points would be the winner. But that's basically how you play dogs. So let's go ahead and see what I think about it. Alright guys, so first off, I just want to start off by saying that dogs is a unique change of pace. I'm tired of cats games. Finally, a game for the dog lover. The theme of the game works perfectly. You're going around town, collecting dogs, stray dogs, lost dogs, returning them to your kennel, and taking them to the dog fair if they're not going to be getting a home. And it's very family friendly in that aspect. The component quality is solid. They got your little meeples that you can get for the Kickstarter, as well as the cards are thick. The game board is bright and beautiful. The color and the art of the game works really well and flows really well. The changes in the variants in the game, there is a difference between the game that was made previously to this one, the new one that is now on Kickstarter. This one has a new variant for 2 players, where it's going to be more difficult for you to take actions, as well as the maximum and minimum amounts of currency you can use on spaces, in addition to having new ways the game can end, one of them being the roadblocks. If there's 6 of them out on the table, the game can end, as well as the roadblocks in general, making it more difficult for you to get around town, especially if it blocks you from going from the city to the country, because that's going to cost you 1 or 2 gas, depending on the variant, to get through there, which makes resources really tight, and it's a really tight resource control management system. You have to make sure you're doing everything correct, otherwise you're going to suffer some problems. That being said, the age range, it works great. I think you can play with a 10 or 11-year-old pretty well. You have an adult there teaching them the various steps of the game, as well as the fact that mainly it's spending gas to move around the board and collecting pairs, triples, quadruples of dogs in different little various ways. I mean, sure, you're going to have that strategic gamer who's going to be really good at the game because they're going to know exactly what they need to do, but that doesn't stop anybody from enjoying this game, and I think it's definitely worth checking out. It's on Kickstarter now if you want to look at it, and I suggest you do because overall I find this game amazing and it's definitely going into my collection. Alright guys, so if you like this video and you want to see more, go ahead and check out the rest of our videos here on YouTube, as well as liking, subscribing, and commenting down below. Also, if you like this type of content, you can go ahead and check out our other resource, unfilteredgamer.com, which includes blog posts, giveaways, and our Kickstarter list. Right now we're currently giving away the game Coetan, Monsters in the Elevator, and The Refuge. Also, don't forget to check out our partners at the everythingboardgames.com website and the Giveaway Geek. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time.